Alright, welcome to another episode of That Show on the Weekend. I'm Dan, this is Steven, and today we're talking about coffee. Steven, tell us about the preparation before the coffee is considered, because a lot of it is the beans themselves.
Well, as far as beans go, there's several different ways of harvesting it. The wet hulling method, very popular in Indonesia, involves coffee and water, very similar to like cranberries.
Mm-hmm.
And you would gather those. Then, when it comes to the actual processing of the coffee, there is the two methods. There's the wash processing and the more traditional dry natural processing. The wet processing, you put it all in a big old watery vat and let nature just take its course, and it gets all fermenty and mucilagey, and then everything separates eventually and you just get the beans out of that gross water. And the natural process, you lay it all out on terraces or raised beds and let it dry and fall off. Then there's usually, and it's, packaged and sent to various coffee roasting or coffee importers, because it being not domestic product, it must be imported, and then from there it's sent to various local coffee shops, and then those guys roast it and package it and then give it over to people.
So tell us about the roasting process and the different types of roasting processes that exist.
Well, there is so if you're roasting at home, the traditional is you throw some green beans into a cast iron pan and put it over a flame and just kind of keep it moving until it looks mostly dark. And then you're like, done. That's still popular in some people's houses. Ethiopian coffee ceremonies still do that. There's a place downtown that does it here. It's really cool. Typically, you're going to use a roaster that comes in either the drum roaster or the fluid bed roaster. And the drum roaster is the more traditional. The coffee moves back and forth like it was in a giant clothes dryer, where the fluid bed roaster uses high volumes of air and keeps the coffee airborne the entire time. It's very loud and very noisy, and the place I work for has done both. They used to have a fluid bed roaster, then they upgraded to the drum roaster, which was... You can control things a lot. You can control all the fine details, like the air input and the temperature and the gas, much more easily on a drum roaster, because the Civets fluid bed roaster is not designed for that. It's supposed to... Coffee comes in, X amount of minutes pass, coffee comes out. And that's it. That's all you can control with those. The amount of time it is in the high volumes of air. They're so noisy. But after you get your roasted coffee, how you make your coffee is... There's so many different methods.
What is your top few, maybe top 3, top 5,
I
top 10?
usually go with the pour-over methods. I've done Chemex. I've done the Kalita Wave. I have not done Hario.
It's
weird.
Explain those different types.
So, all of the pour-over methods are very similar. There is a thing sitting over a vessel, or is the vessel, in the case of the Chemex. You rinse out the filter, because all filters must be rinsed, because filters have their own taste. No filter making process is perfect, and there will be some papery tastes to your coffee, if just subtle. Then you put the grounds in there after measuring those out, hit it with some hot water to let it bloom. The blooming process is very interesting, because what is happening is that coffee by nature is hydrophobic, because of the gases trapped into it during the roasting process, and by grinding it and hitting it with hot water, a lot of those gases are expressed, so that it is more readily accepting of hot water, and you can get more of the dissolved solids, which is the coffee that everybody wants. If your coffee does not bloom, it is not fresh. And you can test this super easy. Take some coffee, grind it, throw it in a cup, hit it with some hot water, and see if it rises like a cake in the oven. And if it doesn't, don't use that.
Very nice.
After the blooming phase, you keep adding hot water till it fills the container till you want to stop and then stop. Then there's the Mr. Coffee, which we just use as the blanket term for automatic. Everybody knows how that works.
Yeah.
Coffee into the basket, hit a button,
And then it
wait.
Yeah.
The big disadvantage of those is most of the carafes sit on an active heat burner to keep it warm. The problem with this is as coffee stays hot longer, the acids and tannins within the coffee start breaking down into the more complex and harsher acids. So if you drink coffee as it's freshly made, it may taste good, but if you come back to the same pot that's been sitting on a burner for like an hour, it's going to taste super bitter. And it also keeps it very hot during the entire brewing process, which also further expedites the breaking down of the acids. So you want to avoid that. Like most gas stations or cafes that give a damn brew into air pots, which trap the heat mostly in there without adding more heat or keeping the heat constantly high.
That's what we do.
Right. And that helps a decent amount to prevent acid degradation within coffee. Yeah.
So, what do you think coffee has done for society?
Well, as far as coffee goes, it is the second most traded commodity in the world, right after oil. It's like oil and then coffee. So it's so ingrained in all of the societies. It's why the Dutch colonized Indonesia, because coffee can only be grown between the two cancers. So you need a lot of real estate in that area that's very coveted, and it's on South America, Central America, Africa, India, Southeast Asia. All of these places have coffee that is grown, and all of them have different tastes. The island of Java is particularly interesting because a lot of their root stock is the original Dutch. So the coffee's been around for a very long time, and it's closer to what it used to be. The biggest issue, like from a global standpoint, is farmers have issues when dealing with coffee rust, which is a disease that literally causes the leaves of coffee plants to oxidize. And if you catch it early and take precautions, you can save it, but like small farmers can lose their entire crop and they're just completely done. They're done for. So a lot of places do what's called a co-op, where they all these small farmers get together and then bring all their coffee to one place, and that place processes and sells it on their behalf. And then the profits are distributed back amongst the co-op, so that the risk is less high for all of the farmers. But as far as the society goes, coffee is so prevalent since, World War One? It became more popular over here. After everybody was in Europe for a spell, and everybody came back with a taste for coffee. And it was more cemented after the Second World War.
Yep.
But that time is usually referred to as first wave coffee, which is coffee, just straight up coffee. Who cares where it came from? Run it through the percolator. Just enjoy that. And your second wave coffee is when people started to care. No, second wave coffee is when lattes and cappuccinos first became prevalent in America. Like, those were popular in Europe for a spell. Or, they're still popular in Europe. But then, after Americans started getting a taste for that over there, they were like, we need that here too. So, that usually came around the same time that Starbucks became popular. Was really when second wave coffee became a thing. And then third wave is the first two waves, but then you start caring about the origins of coffee. And a lot of places, like your Folgers, your Maxwell House, are still firmly first wave, pre-ground. It's some South American country. Sometimes they'll tell you it's Colombia. Where in Colombia? You know, that area. The country. Then, when you start looking at specialty coffee, people are like, okay, this is a Colombia from the Sierra Nevada. Like, that's still not quite specific enough. And then you go, it's Val de Cauca, which is in, I believe, Western Colombia? Not 100% sure. And then you get your, like, Oscar Amar, which is a very popular coffee farmer in Honduras. Yeah, his coffee is really good. And then you start getting to, like, the Cup of Excellence. So the Cup of Excellence is this one award that coffee farmers can strive for, where throughout a year, 5 times, some judges will show up, taste your coffee, and rate it. And if it rates poorly anytime through those random show-ups, you're disqualified. You can't get the Cup of Excellence award. If you do win a Cup of Excellence, all of the coffee from that crop is harvested and sent to internet auction, and 100% of the proceeds go right back to the farm so that they can prove things and create more award-winning coffees. So it's one of those, hey, you made a really good coffee, let's reward you for that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. A lot of places are now going through and like doing origin tours. I know Gimme does it, where a bunch of people from Gimme Coffee will go to a coffee farm and just be like, hey, look, I went to this coffee farm, try this coffee, it's super good.
So the Steam holiday sale's over now. What did you get?
I got Detective Grimoire, which I still haven't played. Got City Skylines, which I wasted an entire weekend on, and I can't bring myself to open it again because I know all my time's gone. I had Magicite. I got Magicite for a bunch of friends. I'm playing that multiplayer. That's all I got. I was very restrained this summer, or this winter sale.
I got Magicite from you. I bought SimCity 4000. I mean, SimCity 4. That's probably the same thing. And I got City Skylines. And I have not played one of them. Instead, I've been playing Fallout 4.
Of course.
I opened them to
Right.
set the configuration data.
Part of this holiday sale is, now that I'm Linux only on my computer, I've been having a lovely time figuring out if I should bother trying to get it to work or not. But there was a new version of Wine that was Wine 2 was released. And that's exciting. The first major change, and it's a lot more stable, and it patches to the graphics turn a lot better. I've noticed a significant frame rate improvement through the games that I still run through Wine.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
I'm still waiting for Android Marshmallow to be pushed up to my phone.
Marshmallow. That's what, 5?
It's still on Lollipop.
Is that 5? And which one's which?
I don't know, but Marshmallow's
No.
newer.
Yeah, Marshmallow's 5, Lollipop's 4.4.
Although, it's funny, because when I go into the settings, and I go to About Phone, and I, Android version 5.1.1.
Yeah, you already have it.
But there was something in there that said it was like Lollipop. For some strange reason, rather than Marshmallow.
No, 5.1's Marshmallow.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Alright. Maybe it was like the program I was using was misreading it.
Probably.
Kernel version is 3.10.61.
Oh, that's a news thing. So, a lovely hacker decided to go through and run Windows 95 on his 3DS.
Did it work?
Absolutely. It boots and everything.
How did he do that?
I don't quite remember, but weird. It's very interesting that people are now trying to run Windows 95 on everything. Like back in the day, like this is a trend that happens. Like there's one thing that you try to get to work on everything, and like the original was like, can it run Snake? The answer is, of course, it's Snake. Then it was, can it run Doom? And I've seen people like laser printers running Doom, or like radar equipment running Doom. Like it was the thing to do for a while. Like, can it run Doom? Yes. And I had a phase back in my college days, where I was trying to just get everything to run Linux. iPods, MP3 players, this one super old PDA that I got a hold of, like everything Linux. Now it's apparently, can it run Windows 95?
I thought it was, can it run Crysis? Oh,
well,
no, that's for...
Can it run Crysis is like, can my modern computer do this thing?
No.
But this is like things that shouldn't run a thing running a thing. Like your 3DS booting into Windows 95. And this person started with getting their iPad to run Windows 95. Which I think is super funny and just a weird messed up sense. But like, it runs.
That would be actually quite interesting, because you could do so much more
Right.
than you could with the iOS.
Kind of. Like, Windows 95 has a lot of limitations. The most modern browser that can run on Windows 95 and 98. I had to look this up because I had a VirtualBox running Windows 98. The most modern version, or most modern browser is like 2 versions ago Opera. Still had support for Windows 95, 98. Which means you can view HTML5 web pages on 95 and 98.
But you know what's awesome? Is because no one's producing any viruses for those old operating systems anymore.
The thing is, the viruses that existed for those never went away.
Right. But...
And a modern virus will still install on them and fuck them up harder than any other system.
Oh,
because there's no security to stop them.
Well, I would have thought that they wouldn't be compatible.
Maybe. If you have a 32-bit virus, it'll run on the 16-bit operating system. If it's been patched properly. You can fuck it up. But there you go. Get your iPad to run Windows 95 and get it horribly virus-riddled. And just see what happens. I think that's worth the science.
Just because. Our next topic, headphones. And why you should never, ever, ever go back to those crappy little earbuds ever again. Unless they're super high quality from the future.
Well, so... The first thing you need to know about headphones is making sure the headphones are comfortable for extended wear should be a priority. Because if feeling a pinching sensation in your ears will affect your sound quality just because of a negative emotion. There was research done on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Music affects the brain in a positive light, helps people develop a little bit, especially if you listen to like Beethoven. But it will not help babies develop. There's no scientific research.
Right, but if you're getting headphones, make sure that they are comfortable to wear for a while. Because if they're not, there is little point to getting the super high def surround sound headphones if you can't wear them more than like 5 minutes without your ears being horribly maimed.
Rugby players would tape their ears in rugby games so they wouldn't get maimed.
Well, I mean, that's interesting, but hardly the point.
I know.
Well, okay, so the other thing is, how do you connect your headphones?
I connect my headphones to my amplifier. I don't have a USB headphones. I have just a big old jack, and that stick that. That's So to answer that question, how I connect my headphones, my main Sennheiser's gets connected to one of these.
What is that?
3.5 millimeter jack.
That's not 3.5.
Oh right, that's the 5.4 millimeter. It's the bigger one to this. So to answer your question about how I connect my
Now, have you... Control yourself.
Okay, so to answer your question about how I connect my headphones to the jack, I use one of these big ones from the Sennheisers connected straight into my amplifier. I know you rave about USB because USB is able to carry a lot more data.
Well, so... Even... Like, Bluetooth is really good too.
Yeah.
Because Bluetooth has a slightly faster connection than USB 2. If it is one of the newer newer Bluetooths, it is slightly better rates. The issue is if there's a lot of interference, it'll affect the sound quality. There are no headphones that use your fiber, which is really disappointing.
They probably need to figure out flexible fiber enough so it won't break every time you want to plug it in.
It doesn't though.
Yeah.
Fiber optic audio cables are pretty good. Then there's the digital coaxial, which is digital to digital, but no headphones use that either.
So
There's all of these really great speaker technologies to connect your speakers to things, but
one of the things is that if you were to use fiber or something, the speakers themselves would have to be powered. And if you were to plug in an analog jack into an analog amplifier, it can just power it through the wire itself.
Right. Well, the other thing is like throwing a couple of AAAs into a headphones isn't uncommon nowadays, especially with active noise cancellation.
That's true.
Yeah, but the other thing is the audio jack on your computer might not be a good audio jack. Like the Raspberry Pi could do music, no problem. Just the sound card on the Raspberry Pi is poop. So a lot of people that are like true audiophiles will buy a USB digital to analog converter stick and then plug their headphones into that. A lot of blogs that I've seen recently that are talking about like unleash the music in your system are like, yeah, you want to get one of these things because most motherboards and laptops, well, not so much desktops, but most laptops do not have a lot of care placed into the audio jacks.
Right. I have a separate audio card. The ASICS.
Go ahead, go get it. You want to show it off?
No. The ASICS, it's just full of books at the moment. To keep it.
Yeah, but it's got a box.
The Asus Sonar D1. It's got a separate audio optical out, which I use that to go to the amplifier, so that I can output Dolby Digital.
Right. There was a blog. I go to opensource.com frequently, mostly because I like them on Facebook, and my newsfeed is pretty much only them at this point. I have carefully curated Facebook to be less annoying.
Yeah.
So the few times that I go to Facebook, it's not terrible. But one of the blog posts I saw that they placed recently was like how to unleash the music in your Linux machine. And like it was make sure you got a good sound card, or have one of these USB to digital to analog things, and then patch that right into ALSA, then use this music player, and then get these headphones, but make sure they're comfortable. And that was it. I'm like, wow, it's that thing that I've read, like, everywhere else.
Yeah.
The ALSA thing, I didn't 100% know before, but the music player was really cool. I don't quite remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it has a lot of really, really cool advanced features that some premium music players don't have. It had a lot of really cool smart playlist features that went through like, oh, this song and this song have very similarities in it, so here's this song plus 3 more songs that'll go really well with that first song.
A lot of songs are very similar. Just the what was it, the Access of Rock, or Access Songs of Access, where they show how most pop songs have the same melody.
Right. Well, the
5,
music,
4, 2, 3 or something like that. Whatever.
yeah, a lot of my music is not. It's a little indie.
No, mine's
A lot of Bandcamp lately.
well, a lot of my music is like alternative soundtracks, classic, modern classic, like orchestra. That's for the modern era.
Right. Well, the cool thing is it made a smart playlist, and I had literally just added my music library to it and did nothing else. And it was just like, I've already done this, this, and this for you, so here you go. Here's a smart playlist. And then when you get through those 3 songs, it'll add 3 more songs. It'll just keep adding songs. Like if you skip, it has a lot of what like Pandora has in it, where like you like or dislike a song, it'll change up the playlist. But it's built into it.
Very nice. Yeah, because I have like a very large, like over 4,000 songs. 5,000.
Right. A lot of people just iTunes, and like iTunes is okay.
Well, I like it for some of its features. It's very easy to use. There's a thing that's like all audiophiles are like, you need this, you need it. Well, if I just want to throw some music on, I don't want to have to, do a rain dance to the moon god.
Well, so VLC player can play anything.
Yeah.
Like straight up. You got anything that is video or audio related VLC.
Oh, I
Done.
use that all the time.
The only thing VLC has issues with is copy protected Blu-rays, but everything has problems with copy protected Blu-rays.
Well, I paid for software for that, but then I also just bought a Blu-ray player, and I also bought DVD Fab 9.
Right. The whole Blu-ray copy restriction things.
That was cracked like the day it came out, dude. And the key was shared throughout the world.
No, that was HD DVDs.
Oh, I thought they did some Blu-rays too.
No, Blu-rays were a little harder because the hardware wasn't there.
Oh.
Like, HD DVDs used DVD drives, so everybody had access to that, so they could immediately crack it. Blu-ray drives, when Blu-rays first came out, were like, the white albatross. Just, nobody had them, and if you had one, it was like a $150 thing. And it only read them. If you wanted the burner, like, good luck. You had to sell a firstborn child. Because when Blu-ray first came out, it was right around the same time as the launch of the PlayStation 3. Because it was a Sony thing. And the PlayStation 3 was, at the time, one of the few actual Blu-ray players. And part of the reason the PlayStation 3's launch was so botched was they had to do the Blu-ray thing, and they didn't have enough lasers to make enough Blu-rays to fill the pre-orders. So
That sucks.
yeah, a lot of people, or a lot of stores that had like 4 or 5 pre-orders for the PlayStation 3 ended up getting like 1 and had to literally played musical chairs to see who won it. And then anybody else that was hoping to get one that didn't pre-order it just couldn't. There weren't any. Like, good luck. But yeah, no, Blu-ray has always been an issue, especially with non-proprietary things, because like so long had to pass before people could get a hold of the hardware reliably. And even when they did, they're like, well, not everybody wants this feature anyway. Like, the VLC's blog made a specific post on Blu-ray support. And what they did was they support open, not horribly locked down Blu-rays. Like, anyone can do that. But when it came to supporting, like, protected Blu-rays, they were like, it's not worth our time. We're open source. We run completely on donations, and we don't really pay royalties. So why start now?
Yeah.
Like, you have to pay a small royalty to support MP3.
Really?
Yeah, MP3 is royalty. Like, the format MP3 has royalties associated.
So MP4 and M4A and
MP4s, depending on how they're encoded, do or do not. The audio layer of an MP4 can be copy protected. Because if you do the MP3 audio layer in an MP4, because the MP4 is just the audio, or just the video container, and then there's an audio in the video. So if you do, like, the open sourcey guy, it'll do a Vorbis audio with the MP4 video, and that's fine.
so
The Xvid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite codec to use? I like H.264.
Well, H.264 is also open source. That's
from
the Xvid.
I know, but it's
people.
one of my favorite codecs to use because it's so versatile.
I stick with usually Mastrica or Vorbis.
What about my using the Makashi MKV radio container?
MKV is Mastrica.
Mastrica, yeah. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think. Don't quote me on that. Being from Dermville, I have traditionally had issues pronouncing things that normal people can pronounce easy, because everybody back where I'm from have really bad times pronouncing things. Like, it's not Oneida Creek, it's Oneida Crick. I went to elementary school instead of elementary school.
Elementary?
Yeah, we pronounce it elementary where I'm from, and that's
elementary.
not right.
Oh.
It's elementary.
GIF or GIF?
It's GIF. And the reason it's GIF is because it's graphic interchange format. And last time I checked, graphic was now pronounced draphic. Sorry.
That would be so much more epic, though.
It would be, but it doesn't make sense to
Graphic.
call it a GIF. Everybody pronounced it GIF because the first letter stands for graphic. It starts with a G that sounds like
Yeah. But giraffic sounds like Jurassic Park.
right.
Just giraffic GIF.
GIF doesn't make sense.
No.
It doesn't make sense. I'm so sorry, guy who decided to name it badly, but you should have really, really thought that one out.
Or Santa Paws for dogs. Santa Claus for guys. I don't know.
Would
you ever dress your dog up as Santa Paws?
Maybe, because that's super adorable. So, the iTunes thing.
Yeah.
iTunes has this problem that everybody had when Real Player. So, like, Real Player, way back in the day, super good. It was like the VLC of the before times.
The before times.
Right, so it was the major media players back in the era of 95 and 98 were Winamp.
Winamp. It really whips the llama's ass whoopsh, 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 in every direction.
Oh, right, the audio test. Exactly. So there was Winamp, which was tiny, played all your music, that's it. Couldn't do much else. Like, it later on added video support, but it was for playing music. It had a little playlist, a little library thing. It was super adorable, super tiny. Real Player was like an adult's Winamp. Like, it did everything Winamp did, but it was bigger and flashier, and it had better library, and it had like the DivX support, so it did really good video playback and everything. But over time, it started adding things when it installed. You know, the malware-like practice of, you install this thing, here's a toolbar. You install this thing, here's this other thing. Then it started, when you installed it, it wanted to put every file it possibly could under itself. And QuickTime, and by extension iTunes, does the same thing. When you install QuickTime or iTunes, it takes all your image formats, all your video formats, all your music formats, and it associates it with that. And way back in the day, iTunes and QuickTime and Real Player were really good when they started up, but getting to the point on an older machine was really, really big hassle. So that's why Winamp and then later VLC Player were really, really good, because they don't take long to pop up, and once they're popped up, they're done. There's nothing else that needs to load. They don't VLC kind of takes a lot of things and puts it under it, but Winamp never did. And like QuickTime and iTunes, they're just so bloated. They take, like, on a modern machine, they don't take super, super long to load up.
No.
But they did, at one point, take forever to load up. And when you're like, I want to watch this 1.5 minute QuickTime movie.
Well, that's what iTunes is for now. Or YouTube is for now.
Well, back in the day.
Yeah.
Like 2004, YouTube didn't exist yet. So you would go to like a place and download your 1.5-minute video that would take like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And you would go to play it, and you would have to wait for QuickTime to pop up. And then QuickTime would pop up. And then QuickTime would have to start loading the rest of the library so that it could play your video. So then, like, 6 minutes later, your 1.5-minute video plays. And that was too much. Like, I don't like iTunes. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
iTunes is nice if you buy stuff from the iTunes store, and I don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have a few things from the iTunes store, but most of it is libraries I've had around.
Yeah, the problem is a lot of the really, really, really nice open source music players kinda don't go to Windows because there's so much hassle to, take all of the great Linux libraries and import them. But if you're based off of like the GTK, like GIMP is, then it's no problem to make a version for Windows. You just like, okay, I need this, then this. So when you install, make sure that stuff's there. So like your Pigeon or your GIMP. Rhythmbox actually does have a Windows version because it's GTK as well. Like all your good GNOME products can have Windows versions, but they're not as good. They take forever to load up.
Why do they call it GIMP?
The GNU Image Manipulation Program?
Oh, no.
Duh!
No, I mean, yeah, no, yeah, okay.
Right, because it's part of the GNU project. Because Linux isn't really Linux, it's GNU Linux. Linux only refers to the kernel,
Right.
where everything on top of it is the GNU project.
Well, I thought they called them Genome.
No. Fun fact about the Linux hacker community is they really love to just screw the rules. So GNU itself is one of those obnoxious recursive what are they called?
Names?
Yeah, it's recursive. And
What?
GNU stands for GNU not Unix.
Oh, like
Acronym. That's
like
what I was thinking of.
PHP hyperscript, like the P in PHP stands for PHP.
Right. Yeah, no, obnoxious things like that.
A recursive anagram or something.
A recursive,
Anagram.
not anagram, acronym.
Acronym.
Yeah, the recursive acronyms. And that's all over the goddamn place. So annoying.
Because they wanted to use these letters, so.
Right. So, like, the GNU Manifesto, or the GNU not Unix Manifesto, the GNU General Public License, or the GNU not Unix General Public License, or the GNU not Unix General Public License, because you can just keep adding that in front of it over and over and over again. Or, my absolute favorite, we'll do what Windows does, but change a letter. It's not ipconfig.
If config.
Yeah. Does the same thing.
Yeah.
They just changed the letter. Because they could.
Because.
Or spelling things backwards.
Or Windows likes to use the backslash, or the backslash. And Linux is the / right?
I don't think... No, I think it's the same.
No, they go different ways.
Oh, do they?
I think they...
A lot of Unix and Linux commands just use the dash.
No, I meant for, like, file browser.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the /. Windows uses the backslash.
Because they want to be different.
Right.
I mean, it's not Steve Jobs' fault that he sold DOS to IBM before he even made it.
That wasn't Steve Jobs, Jesus.
I mean,
Wow, wrong. Back that up.
Hey, Steve. We both stole it. I just stole it first.
Yeah, from Pirates of Silicon Valley. You seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's seen that has ever taken a computer course will eventually see that.
Is that like an accurate movie?
It is actually. It's surprisingly accurate. Because the best part about that movie is it doesn't try to paint either one of them as better than the other one. They're both terrible people. And that's the point.
To get anywhere in life, you have to be evil.
Yeah, the other really nice documentary about operating systems is Revolution OS. About Linux in general. It's got Richard Stallman in it, who is absolutely a gem. So Richard Stallman being the guy that founded the GNU project.
You know what's also
He's
evil?
crazy and eats things off his feet during speech.
You remember the original Apple commercial with the girl swinging the thing?
Oh, the one for the Apple II, was it?
Yeah.
With the Lisa? Where they were like, don't let 1984 be like 1984.
So what happened today, in general, is that Apple has become the guy that ad was fighting against.
Well, so the cool thing about that particular advertisement is they ran that again, I think in the mid-2000s as a Super Bowl commercial. But the hammer running lady, is wearing an iPhone or an iPad or iPod during it instead. They hype or superimposed an iPod on top of her, which I think really defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Don't become some giant Orwellian dystopian future. Listen to your music on your on your iPod and then put your music on there with iTunes on your iMac or eMac. I don't remember which one is popular.
But it just goes to show how it's come full circle for that
absolutely.
company.
And meanwhile, Microsoft is going in the opposite direction of where they started. Where it was like, hey guys, look, we have DOS, and now we have Windows, which runs in DOS. And now we have
Windows.
Not DOS at all.
Yeah.
Windows. Everything's much more stable suddenly. When we stop trying to build everything in DOS.
And now it's using like a Linux-like kernel.
Well, it isn't though. The NTFS kernel is monolithic like the Linux kernel, but it doesn't. It still is built on the NTFS architecture, allowing it to still. It's not quite a Linux kernel, and it doesn't quite do a lot of things the Linux kernel does, because in order to do a lot of things the most recent Linux kernel does, is you would have to trust the user to be able to do a lot of things. And Microsoft simply will not let the user do things.
Apple, though, has more of a Linux kernel, though.
They have a Unix kernel.
Unix.
And as I said before, it's GNU. Just GNU, not Unix. I've actually recently had this discussion where a lot of people are like, oh, Macs were Linux. They're not. They're a Unix-like operating system, and GNU Linux is a Unix-like operating system, but GNU is not Unix. It's its own thing.
And what do you think?
And Unix, by the way, does not exist. It's a theoretical operating system.
What?
Yeah. So the Unix-like operating systems all say they're Unix-like because Unix doesn't exist. It was a research paper.
Really?
Mm-hmm. They're like, here's how you should build an operating system. Like, we can kind of do that. And then they did.
They never actually built the Unix.
Yeah, Unix doesn't exist. There's a lot of things like Unix, but nothing that is actually Unix.
Then you're just challenging the audience to go out and build it.
Right, and then people make Unix-like operating systems.
So, does it exist on paper?
Yeah, that's it. That is literally it.
Then it exists.
Well, it doesn't exist as what it should be.
Well, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist as an actual operating system.
But it exists in paper.
It exists as a theory that everybody wants to build upon. So, like, Mac OS are Unix-like systems, and they have a lot of the same command prompts and everything as a Linux system would. And they're stable like Linux, but a lot of their stuff is closed off. Part of Apple's licensing is, what they do is they trade simplicity for freedom of use. Like an iPhone, you can get to wherever you want within 1 to 3 button presses. Where an Android phone, which is Linux-based, it can take you a bit longer to get where you want. Mm-hmm. And there's more than a button to open it and get to menu and stuff. And part of the simplicity is you can't add this, this, and this, and this, because we have a more restrictive iTunes store. I mean, as long as you're not looking at, like, the garbage games. But...
Or the black app market.
Right. The thing is, when you want to have more freedom, you have to go out of your way to jailbreak your device, and then you have to go to the black market, and then you can then install whatever you want. Like your emulators and whatnot. Where Android devices, a lot of that exists, you just have to root your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And all that does is give you administrative access to your phone. You have access to everything on your phone, typically. And they take that same philosophy and bring it over to the Mac OS X. A lot of times, the biggest problem with Apple computers and Apple devices is because they sell the hardware and the software as one package, similar to like a console. People have a hard time separating the fact that software and hardware are separate.
Yeah, because people aren't knowledgeable.
Because when you get an iMac, it is an iMac. Or MacBook? Yeah, MacBook. So if you get a MacBook, it is one unit. There is the operating system and the hardware are one. But, in theory, you should be able to just take that operating system and install it on a 32 or 64-bit processing computer you've thrown together. And that's where the whole Hackintosh thing comes from.
Yeah, but it tries to, the operating system tries to work against you.
Right, and that goes back to the whole simplicity restricting you thing, where you can buy this kind of expensive with last year's hardware MacBook, and it works. With the exception that the two most common issues that happen in laptops are you spilt something on it, or the hard drive gave out. And if you have a regular laptop, you can swap out the hard drive yourself, reinstall your operating system, and you're good to go. If you spilled something on it, typically there is a local repair shop you can go take it to. Or you can send it back to the manufacturer and bring it back. If something happens to your MacBook, you must go to an Apple store, or you have to send it back to them. Because of the hardware checking that they have in it. And you have to use Apple approved hardware. You can't just swap out the hard drive yourself, because it will reject it if it's not the right one.
Because Apple.
Well, part of it is they want their unified system, and you don't have to worry about picking out hard parts and putting it together and installing an operating system. Here you go. It's all in front of you. It is literally like an Xbox or a PlayStation 2, where you get it, it's all there, you don't have to do anything else. Plug it in and go. And you're trading off the freedom for simplicity. And when you're picking up, I want to do this thing on a computer, which computer should I get? I do film editing or photo editing. People are like, oh, I'll get a Mac, because everybody has them that does these things. And I don't know why.
No one knows why.
They're like, well, the programs are more geared for Mac. And they're like, let me load up Audacity. I'm like, are you serious right now? Audacity, which was native to Linux.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Geared towards Macs, whatever. I had that discussion. That thing happened. It was really funny. Yeah, if you get things that are supposed to be on your operating system and you go to Windows, it'll be slower, because that's how Windows do.
I have a pretty fast computer, though it's been slowing down in certain areas. I think the SSD is wearing out.
That happens. But the thing is, if your SSD does poop out, you can get a new one and swap it in, and it'll be fine.
I make frequent backups of all my important data.
Which you should do, because backups are important.
Oh, yeah.
You never know when everything's going to burst.
My mom called me earlier today and asked, she's like, I need to zip a file. Should I get, WinZip, pay, $30? And I'm like, Mom, right-click on the file, send to compressed zip. Oh, thank you. You just saved me $30. Oh, and how will they open it? They were just right-click and hit extract.
It doesn't matter how they opened it or not. You zipped it. Your end of the deal is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, zips. Oh God, WinZip. That brings back the memories. I mean, who ever paid for WinZip?
Not me.
Actually, I did know somebody that paid for WinZip.
Really?
Yep. It was a professor I had at college, paid for WinZip. And when I was like, well, WinRAR is like WinZip, but a little better. Or you can get 7-zip and really not have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
Like, well, I paid for this already. I'm just gonna keep using it. And isn't that just like a typical response? I paid for this thing on my computer. This is the only thing I can use now.
It's like an Apple user.
Well, it's even more than that. Like, how many times have you found somebody that uses, like, Symantec or Norton only because they paid for it? Or, I have this one version of McAfee because I paid for it. And because I paid for it, I will not get rid of it under any circumstances. I must get my money's worth.
Gotta break the cycle somewhere.
Right. And like, well, it was about to expire, so we just renewed it. Like, no, you could have moved! Well, it's been working just fine for it. No, it has literally not been working for you. I was getting rid of your viruses just yesterday. That is not working for you.
What do you think of...
I mean, most of the problem is them, but you don't want to tell them that.
No, you can't tell users that they're a worthless piece of crap who don't belong on this planet or use computers ever.
So,
in fact, we should make an example of them. It might motivate the others to try a little better.
Like,
and, you know, whip them a bit.
7-Zip and WinRAR. You can just keep saying no forever, and it's fine. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand how those companies still exist.
Maybe they...
Like, maybe their price is so much higher than their overhead that they only have to sell like 2 or 3 copies a year, and they're like, fuck, just good. We're good, guys. We're good for a year. Everybody keep working. We sold 3 copies of it.
Well, maybe this is how it works. They wrote the program, they no longer have to develop for it, and all of them just have other jobs, and they're all just paying for this one distribution server and an activation server.
And meanwhile, 7-Zip's over here with a better compression that's open source, and it will never ask you to pay for it because there's no... They'll ask you to donate, but only if you're on their webpage. It's over here in the corner. It doesn't keep popping up. It's like, I will not go away. You must pay money at some point. Or you can click this and keep going with the trial. Like, who am I to judge you? WinZip. Like, you didn't even have to pay for the premium features either, like the multiple floppy disk. Oh god, that ages me. But like, I want to zip this thing across 6 floppy disks.
It's never about...
You didn't have to...
No, here's the problem though. In the real world, storage isn't an issue anymore.
No, it really isn't.
It's about accessibility. Because if you're like me, I think I only have like 3 terabytes left of my 10 terabytes.
Only. I only have like 3 Library of Congresses left on my computer. However will I get past?
I'm video editing, dude. I'm going to need like a petabyte in the short term. I just want to get like a petabyte NAS.
Right.
Or at least a 80 terabyte.
So...
Because when I really start getting going in my videos, I'm going to need a place to dump all these.
Right.
I don't
Like,
want to just
that-
like re-download from YouTube.
Like, so there was an XKCD comic I read ages ago, and it spoke about transferring files from one person to another person that is in the same room, and how we still don't have a super good like way to do that. Like, if I had a laptop and your desktop's right there, like, there's thumb drives.
Right. And crossover cables.
Right, there's all these weird, complicated ways after thumb drive. Or, like, if I wanted to share a file with you across the internet, like, nowadays, there's a decent amount of ways to do it. But back then, there was, like, literally no good way of doing that. Like, I could set up a file server, and you can connect to the file server and download it. I mean, I haven't done that before. The horribly convoluted backwards way.
Yeah.
But
Or you could like mail them a CD.
You know, that is always an option. You can always just trust in the U.S. Postal Service to get that from point A to point B on your behalf. In like 5 to 7 business days.
You know, that would be very interesting to see, like, is that, like, Netflix still mails out DVDs? I mean, sometimes.
Don't you have to pay for that service, though?
Yeah, you do.
Like,
But-
as an addition to...
Oh, yeah.
Like, they dropped the price of Netflix and split it into the DVD...
That's true. I mean...
slash VHS. I think you can maybe... They may have discontinued VHSs, but they used to be able to do
I mean, remember when they supported Sony Betamax tapes?
I don't think Netflix ever did that.
No. I'm joking.
Blockbusters did. For a good long time. They also used to support the UMD videos. Those little PHP... Or, not PHP. PSP discs.
Oh.
Yeah, those little PSP movies. And that could only be played on your PSP and nowhere else. And they cost the same price as the other movies. Like, I could spend $10 and watch Black Dynamite on DVD. Pay $10 and watch Black Dynamite on UMD. Well, one I can actually watch with people, and this one is a tiny little screen.
Yeah.
And I can't really... And then they quietly killed it. And nobody noticed it going. Just, it's gone now, and nobody cared.
Yeah, I knew something about it when it came out, and then it was like, I guess it just faded away.
I knew one person that had a UMD video. And it wasn't a good video, and they watched it once, and then eventually got it on DVD, and stopped using the other one.
What do you think of the idea of... because I always buy my media now. I don't pirate, ever. I never have.
You've never pirated. Not once.
No.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I always buy my media, and only recently, because before I would just be in the same room with someone who's playing it. So,
Over the internet.
I
Through
do
this
not.
torrent thing.
I do not endorse pirating. It is illegal. You shouldn't do it.
Well, yes and no. If you
This is going on the internet where anyone can see it.
If you
I do not
own
endorse
it
it.
on Blu-ray, and you wanted to get the Blu-ray version as a movie file, isn't that still legal?
I don't know.
Because
Not
you can
definitely
claim as
not
you
in the
own it, but in a different format.
Definitely not in the UK.
Right.
I mean, I use DVD Fab 9, and I just rip it one-to-one to my hard drives.
Right. Right.
So I don't have to download
But
it.
if you have it and you give that file to somebody else, would it be the equivalent of just handing them the DVD? Because you can lend people physical media, no problem.
Not in the UK anymore. They just going all crazy with their laws.
Right.
But here's a question. You know how services are like saying, okay, so how many movie downloads is this internet connection worth? Or how, like, everything, when you're rating speed now for the consumer, it's in movie downloads or song downloads.
Is it?
Yes. So my question is, who's downloading movies? Because the only thing that I could think of is torrenting. When they say, oh, you can get this...
No, you can download movies through iTunes.
Well, yeah, but...
Or Amazon.
It's such an eclectic way of rating.
Well, it also depends, like, how big is the movie? What's the compression? Is it the Blu-ray version? Or is it the standard definition version?
Your
Does it
standard-
come with the special features?
Your standard iTunes is 2 gigs.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. That's what they're doing. They're just using iTunes as a measurement. Because why not?
But I find it really weird.
Yeah, it is really weird.
Because all the rating systems are so indicative of, you must be pirating.
Well, the other
The
other thing is, remember when all storages were compared directly to floppy disks?
This is... No, I was... Well, kind of. Very young. I was like 5.
Like, when the first thumb drive came out, they're like, oh, this this
That's
128 megabyte thumb drive is the equivalent of 88 floppy disks. Like, it's just, you have to use something to measure it to give people a better example.
that's
of
what
how
it was.
works.
Yeah, how many movies you could fit on this drive. That's what it was.
Right. It was...
How
just-
many songs can you fit on this CD?
Right. And the answer is a lot more than right.
Right.
Though, I will have to say that cassettes do hold a lot more music than a CD does.
Well, you can get an 800 gigabyte tape backup storage in just a single tape.
I'm talking like an audio cassette
Oh.
can do 2 hours of music, when a CD can do like 70 to 80 minutes.
Which is...
Mind you, the CD's quality is still better than the cassette because it doesn't sound like butts. Just trumpeting behinds.
What do you think of records and their ability to sort of squash the sound war because of the physical limitation of the physical medium, which is the vinyl?
Well, okay, so we have a record player at work because I work with coffee, and that just attracts people that love vinyl. That's just how it goes. And some all of the records have very good quality, and the older ones have really good sound quality. The only time there's sound issues is when there's dust literally in the problem. Like, the needle will start scraping the dust out of the little grooves of your record, and that'll eventually cause a weird popping, hissy noise because it's dust. But other than that, it sounds perfectly fine. If they're stored correctly, they're great. They sound great. They're not really compressed in the sense that we think of compression, because there's no... It's just physically putting the grooves on there.
Mm-hmm.
And older vinyls do have a certain sound to them, but the construction of the record has more to do with the sound quality than the actual music itself.
So modern vinyls.
Like, you can get new releases on vinyl now.
Yeah.
You have always been able to do that. That never actually went away. It's just more predominant now. Like, there were vinyl releases in 2000 as there are now.
Well, because every time I'm watching The Tonight Show and they have their guest on, Jimmy's always holding the vinyl version.
Right. It used to be the CD, and CD audio quality is good. Like, it's not bad. Most of the people that... The problem with CDs and vinyls are the people that like them. Like, you're not young anymore. Your sound isn't what it once was. So, like, part of the issue is you won't be able to hear the very, very, very fine, minute details without some crazy good setup and ridiculously good hearing.
Yeah.
Like, there's just certain spectrums that you cannot hear. And if your setup is ridiculously good, you will notice the difference. But if you're just playing a record with an amplifier that somebody's dad gave them that they pulled out of an old television, which looks really cool and has a pretty good audio quality to it, like, it's not a tremendously amazing setup, but you can hear the differences between, like, cassettes and everything else.
Yeah.
Like, cassettes definitely do not sound good. Even a little bit. Like, they hold a ridiculous amount of music.
Beeswax colanders?
Well, the thing with beeswax is it'll start to degrade over time just because beeswax is soft. Your shellac 77 RPMs sound super bad. But, like, your 45s and your 33.5 sound pretty good. My biggest problem with records is you have to get up and flip them. And that's just really inconvenient.
There's no auto flipper?
Those are expensive.
Needlessly expensive?
Well, record players are not cheap. Like, even though they're all over the place nowadays, they're still like $40 to play your stuff.
Anyway, we're about over time. We're at 20 minutes over time.
Oh, well, just one more thing. Vinyl's compression issue is sound vibration. Like audio files like digital audio files, your issue is compression. Like after you compress at a certain point, you start losing audio quality. With vinyl, just playing it on a motor will cause small vibrations, which will affect your audio quality in very small ways. So like the thicker acrylic plates between the motor and the record will make a better audio quality. Or if you have the motor over here and you're using a belt system to pull around the record and then play it that way, it has even less vibration, and then it has a better audio quality. Yeah. So anyway, that's the compression issue, like for vinyl.
Alright, thank you for watching another episode of That Show on the Weekend. We didn't really talk about much tech news. We might as well just, who knows, maybe we'll do a car talk episode.
We talked about things that were of a technical nature.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, coffee and 90s go really, really well together. Like computer people drink coffee. I mean, everybody drinks coffee. But
so, hit that dislike and like button if you have to. But if you really liked it, hit the like button. Get subscribed if you were wonderfully in love with it. And to see more of our antics, just check us back out next week. Same bat time, same bat place. No, it's Saturday at 7 a.m.
sometimes.
Sometimes. It generally is.
Depends on if we got done in time.
Yeah. Alright, guys, so thank you for watching and see you in the next episode. Bye. Enjoy.